am back for real now to do another stream. In a minute, I expect to get a notification on my phone that I've got the Twitch app dashboard. So if I go quiet for a second, that's because I'm just pulling that up. But tonight we're picking up where we left off. I can't remember when it was. If it was yesterday morning or the day before. But we were doing a maximum subarray problem, and then I've got two more lined up. If we finish this in a hurry, we will move on to some of those. So without further ado, let's dive in. So I struggled with this a while on the last stream and kept finding edge cases where I didn't think that my algorithm was going to be effective. And there's my dashboard, just so I've got chat up. Perfect. Okay. So I've kept running into edge cases where I was really struggling to make anything work. But my current theory on this problem is that it's enough to keep track of your current maximum, and you should keep it unless the current value that you found makes that maximum not viable, in which case you should hop past it and start a new subarray. So let me come up with a really contrived example. So if I've got 100 and then negative 1,000, or let's make the number smaller just for ease of calculation. So here, my maximum is 1, and here it's negative 9. So do I want to keep track of my lowest value? Maybe. No, I just need to know if adding this number makes my maximum less. Because if it does, then I need to dump this whole thing, or rather keep my start and end as the previous biggest, and then move on to see if I found a new option. So I think this is actually pretty similar to like a running sum problem that I've seen before, but I think that should work. So let's write out our algorithm. So iterate the array, track the current, track the start of the current largest run and the end of the current largest run at each item, see if the run is broken. If it is, reset the largest, smallest to index of broken, continue. So I think we're pretty close here. I don't know if anybody was watching, but I had a cubic solution that I was able to turn into an n squared, or an n cubed that I was able to turn into an n squared, and I think with this we can get it even a little bit better. So let's back out of the loop, and I think this is reasonable. Our largest start and our largest n is going to be that, and then I think we actually need also to track current. So let's do that as well. So int cur start equals 0, int cur end equals 0, int cur sum equals 0, and then for so actually I can't do a for each here. I do need to iterate the whole array. So for int I equals 0, I is less than nums.length I plus plus. Okay, and so here we need to take cur sum plus equals nums at I, and we need to, actually I don't know if I need cur end. I do need cur start, but those are primed at the start of the array, so that should be fine. So really what I want to know is if cur sum is greater than largest sum, then largest start is equal to cur start, largest end is equal to I, and largest sum is equal to cur sum. So here I know that I found a longer value. Um, and then if it is not, so else. So basically, if we found a okay, so now I'm trying to think this through. So if we found one that's not larger, that doesn't necessarily mean that we can discard it, because in this scenario, it does, but in this scenario, we actually want to keep it because our longest run is our longest run here is 18, because this gives us 3, and then this gives us 18. So what I actually need to know is if the current value cancels out all of the value that I've built up. So I think I can keep this, because if it is bigger, then I want to restart. If it is not bigger, or then I want to add it and continue with my curse start and my curse sum continuing to increment. But if it is so actually, I don't know if I want to do this yet. So I think this needs to be curse sums plus nums at I. I don't think that I actually want to save that yet. So then else if okay. So else if yeah, so here I need the Java math absolute value. Okay, abs. I wonder if that's just imported for me by Leetcode. Of okay, so if nums at I is less than 0, and so really I want to know if nums at I plus curse sum is less than 0. That means that we've lost, or less than or equal to, really. I think that would work. That means that we've lost all of the value that we had accrued, and we need to get rid of it. So in this case, we are going to set I equal to I plus 1, or no. We would just let I ride, but we would have curse start equal to I plus 1. We would have cur sum equal to 0, cur end equal to I plus 1. And then we would continue through the loop. So here we know that we need to reset. Here I know that I found an actual bigger item. Here I know that I need to reset and start over. And then here I know that I've found my largest sum. So I think that actually should do the trick. Or actually else. So if neither of these two is true, then I want to take cur sum plus equals nums at I, because I found something, I have to include it because I'm dropping it into my run, but it's not enough for me to either reset my run or consider this my new largest. So let's give that a shot and just see what we get. And by see what we get, I mean find all of my syntax errors. And again, syntax errors. In my defense, normally when I write code, I do not have a current end. Normally when I write code, I do it in IntelliJ, and it tells me what I've done wrong in advance. Okay, so one test case looks good. Let's try just one. Okay, so that looks good. So let's try running the rest of the test cases, and then we will submit it and see what happens. So everybody hold on to your hats. I've been getting time limit exceeded on this. Okay, I got the wrong answers. Let's see if we can't tell why. So what is this giving us? Expected is 1. Okay, so we've got 2 and 1. And let's just sort of think through what we've got here. So we're going through -2, 1. So at first we've got 0 is I. If cursum at sums is greater than largest sum, which it is not. Else if nums at I plus cursum is less than or equal to 0. So here we've got the cur start is at I, and cursum is 0. And then on our next iteration, we've got I equal to 1, and cursum plus 1 should be greater than largest sum. And what was I getting? -1? Okay, so print statement time. So I plus I, and we're gonna have a lot of elements here. So let's just sort of start. So largest start, largest end plus largest end, largest sum plus largest sum, and then cur start. Okay, let's see what that gives us. For anybody watching, I greatly admire you for watching somebody type out debug code. Okay, so 0, largest, and largest sum is very small. Oh. Oh, interesting. Okay. So we would execute this code here because I'm using this placeholder. So I don't think I can use cursum for this. I think I need to prime this to say that my first element, am I guaranteed to have an element in the array? Yes, I am. Okay. So I think I need to prep this that my first element is going to be my current largest sum, and my current largest, my initial run is going to be 0 and 0. And cursum, I'm just going to set to be nums. I don't think we use that. And then I think I need to start my iteration at I, or at 1. And then this actually does need to be 0 because I don't know if I want to include that in my run yet or not. So let's try that. Okay. And then we'll try the other test cases. Something was unhappy. So 6, 1, and 18, and then instead of at the end, we got 23. So let's take a look at this edge or this case. Expected was 23, but we got 18. So int I shoot. So cursum does have to include that because that's where we're starting. But I think that's going to cause me problems back on that other edge case. So let's go back to -2 and 1 and try that. Yeah, that's what I thought. Because now okay, so let's think this through. So, excuse me. Okay, so let's ponder this here. So we've got -2 and 1. We're starting our largest start at 0, largest end at 0, largest sum at the beginning is just the first element. Current start is 0, which makes sense because we may need to include that in our run. Current sum is nums at 0. So do I need to So what happens if I start at 0? And a little bit right now I'm doing trial and error, which isn't really a good habit either, but curious if that resolves that edge case. Definitely not. Yeah, because this is the case where a run goes all the way. So this is the case where you need to drop just the first element. This is the case where a run goes from start to finish. And then here I'm double counting the first number. So that's not good. So I do need to start at 1. And then I think that's going to make this answer correct and the other one wrong. So let's just run through them both every time. Okay, so I think in this case, I need to reset I. So I need to decrement I so that I get another chance to examine the number that I'm on. because I was assuming that if I found this scenario, then I didn't want to include that number at all. But I don't think that's true. I think if this number is negative, nums at I plus cursum will be less than 0, and I'll get to skip it on my next iteration. Will I? Okay, so there's another case here. So this is going to get a little bit messy, but if cursum is 0, if cursum is greater than 0, then I minus minus. So if I was in a run, I don't know if I should consider I or not in this case. If I was not in a run, then I've already considered I, and my next correct thing is to jump past it, which will make me double check one value, or every time I have to reset a run, I will do 2 iterations. That's worse, not better. Or no, it's the same. Oh, so really what I want here is if cursum is not equal to 0, then decrement I. Interesting. If nums at plus cursum is less than or equal to 0. Okay, so I'm never decrementing I, even though I is 1, just some cursum is negative 2. I'm catching this case. So I'm catching that I'm catching that first case. Because technically negative 2 plus 1 is greater than negative 2. So this option is never happening. So I'm just trying to think through what other options we would have. Because here, I don't know that a negative number won't be my largest option. So I think I need another case where nums at I on its own is better. I think that's what I'm missing. Because if nums at I on its own is better than the largest sum, then I want to update this. So largest start equals I, largest sum equals nums at I, and cur sum equals nums at I. Anything else I need to update? Oh, cur start. Cur start equals I. So largest start, oh, and then largest end equals I. And then this I don't think is helpful. So let's, and also this, let's try that. Okay. So why did we get 2? Let me look. Okay. So oh. This should be an else. And I believe that will fix that. There we go. Okay, so let's try all our test cases. And I've run it too soon. Let's comment out our print statement and give this another shot. Okay, we'll go ahead and submit it. Wrong answer. Okay, so let's comment this back in and take a look here. So I think this is not specific enough because I'm just saying if I found a number that's bigger than my current largest sum, I want to take that. And I think I really want to also check if nums at I and nums at I plus cur sum is less than nums at I. Okay. So if my current number is bigger than my current largest sum, and adding this on to my current sum is smaller than what I've got, that feels a little bit too edge casey. So let's just try, well, let's try running our test cases. Okay. Output limit exceeded. Did I have something commented back in? I sure did. Okay, so let's get rid of that, and we'll see if I can beat the time limit. Okay, and there we go. So I'm noticing now the note in the description that there is a divide and conquer approach. Um, usually those feel a lot like dynamic programming to me. One second. Apologize. Usually those feel a lot like dynamic programming to me, so I'm probably not going to take the time to do that just on the fly here. So instead, I will jump to a new problem. And you might hear some funny audio here for a second. I'm actually a little bit nervous because I was noticing in my stream manager that my upload was really jumping, so there might be some feedback here. I'm going to try and see if my audio is okay. And okay, yeah, it seems fine. So sorry if you could hear that. Okay, 1 second while I get the chat pulled back up, just in case anybody decides to drop in. Oop. And apparently I am disconnected from my own chat, which is fun. There we go. Okay. Just on the off chance somebody wants to talk about a problem or interact. Okay. So you are given a large integer represented by as an integer array digits, where each digit at I is the ith digit of the integer. The digits are ordered from most significant to least significant in the left to right order. A large integer does not contain any leading zeros. Increment the large integer by 1 and return the resulting array of digits. Okay. Interesting. So the obvious solution here, excuse me. I'm still getting over a cold, so I keep on going on mute just to try and not cough into the microphone. Okay, so the obvious solution here is to iterate from left to right, or excuse me, right to left, and see if we have 9, because 9 is when we need to do the overflow. And if we do, then we will. Oh, hi, Sir dies a lot. How's it going? Thanks for jumping in. It's a great time. I'm actually just getting started on a new problem, doing some Leetcode here. And like I mentioned, still getting over a cold, so yeah, doing good, man. Appreciate you jumping in. I'm just doing some Leetcode for fun this evening, and you're here at a great time. I'm actually jumping into a new problem for +1. So you're given a large integer represented by the array digits, and the obvious solution here, I think, is to start at the right. Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. It's going around, man, especially with the holidays. So hopefully I'll be a little less hoarse and stuffy and not too long. So the obvious solution is to iterate from right to left. Oh, okay. You're an embedded engineer? Yeah, a lot of this stuff is very data structures and algorithms centric. So if you do more, any kind of PLCs or logic controllers or any kind of lower level stuff, then machine learning. Oh, nice. Um, I touch a little bit of machine learning, but not really. Most of my job deals more with linear programming and then kind of the service layer. So we call ourselves full stack, but we're really front end back to data and then let other people analyze the data. Okay, so while we're chatting, I'm just going to get started on the kind of brute force solution here because that seems pretty straightforward to me. And I'm sure there's a way that's more. Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's a blast. Um, I love it because it's all transactional, it's high throughput, low latency, high availability requirements, and all that. So there's never a dull day, let me tell you. So I'm building out a for loop here, and I'm going to call this cascade. So if digits at I is equal to 9, then digits at I gets 0, and this actually I'm going to say is, leave it at true. Or actually, I don't think I need this. I think I could just break the loop when I'm done. Nice. When you say automotive, like manufacturing or hardware on, or I guess you said embedded, so you're probably stuff that runs inside of the actual cars. That's cool. I'm in shipping logistics for a very large shipping logistics e-commerce company, and I'll let you guess which one. Okay, so basically if I'm still going, then if digits at 9, yeah, then yeah, it's not too hard to guess. There's one very large employer that's kind of in that space. But it's not all bad. It's actually, I mean, assuming you're guessing the right place, it's been a pretty good place to work for. Snap, that's awesome. Autonomous driving, that's a really cool space to be in. Um, so you're doing like image processing or route detection, or what all do you do there? Or chat, I'm going to run that because I think this would do it. This could be a, oh, there we go. I had to swipe to get to the rest of your chat. This is the n, or the linear solution. In the worst case scenario, all of these are 9s, and I need to flip every digit. Which I'm wondering now if I need to handle image processing, CAN transition, neural networks. Awesome. That's really cool. I did some determining what to do and sending those instructions controls. That's awesome, dude. I did a little bit of that in undergrad, and then I touched a little bit of like knowledge-oriented AI in grad school. With of course now I can't think of what they were called, but where you were trying to compare transitions between objects. So a small circle is to a big circle as a small square is to a what? Oh, okay. Are you working on grad school? I did a master's and then I stopped. Would have been cool to keep going, but just wound up being a little bit more than I wanted to. Okay. Oh, you have to do a thesis for undergrad? I got away without doing that, which made it, in my mind, quite a bit easier. So there is an edge case here that I'm noticing. Wow, okay. That's just undergrad. That's crazy. 2 years? Man, I support that. Like internships I think are super helpful and really, really good, but making them a graduation requirement feels a little strange to me, unless the school has some kind of a deal with a company that would be willing to automatically hire interns or give them time. Huh. Do you mind if I ask what school you go to? That's a not like any program that I've ever heard of before, but I think that's kind of cool because then you get to actually write code that matters and you're not just doing academic stuff. And while we're chatting, I'm going to take advantage of a requirement they told me that there are no leading zeros. So if the first digit is 0, then I need to do an array copy into one bigger one. Oh, okay. So they're like super tied to GM, I would guess. Kettering University. So if digits at 0 is a 0, then, and I'm going to get a little sloppy here just because I can. So int new digits equals new int at digits dot length. Oh, does that need to be digits dot length plus 1? I believe that it does. And then let's look up how to do an array copy in Java. Your co-op employer is required to pay you enough to cover tuition and living expenses. That is stick. Word a lot of those kind of non-traditional four-year like Lambda School and some just tech schools that have really focused degrees, but also have you earn some money or just have something other than a massive tuition bill coming for you at the end. Yeah, yeah, that's huge. I went to a very traditional four-year college and kind of a traditional 3-year, 2 or 2.5, 3-year grad school program. And it worked out for me, but I had to work a lot through it to pay for everything. But yeah, anything you can do to keep the total down is awesome. Okay, so here I'm going to do new digits at 0 gets 1. Master's degree here, 40-50%. Nice. That's awesome. And really, it probably works out. I mean, I'm assuming you have to do some kind of work for the company that's footing the bill for it, but it probably works out better for them in the end too, just because hiring is so terrible right now that really anything you can do to pull in graduates is just very helpful. Okay, so next I'm going to do a system.array copy. Oh, okay. The school funds it. They get research from the companies. Yeah. Still makes sense to me. It's still probably coming out net positive for the company because then they get some cheaper labor. You get placed on a sponsored project. So yeah, they might have some influence over what you do or like some ability to control the projects, it sounds like. But like finding good engineers, especially ones who are willing and capable of doing research, is so tough that it's I'm sure it's still a net positive for that company to for GM it sounds like to do that funding and do that deal. And then, you've probably got some loyalty to GM when you finish, so there's a chance you'll be willing to come back and do more for him in the end. Okay, so source position needs to be 0. And then I've got my destination array, so this is actually digits. Oh, you don't work for GM? Oh, it's just GM, like, or it used to be tied to GM, you said? Formerly known as GM Institute. Length. Oh, okay. Um, that's cool. That means the school expanded beyond the original employer, which is pretty slick. That's a tough thing to scale well, but if they can pull it off, and it sounds like 1,000 other companies, that is crazy. That's awesome. Okay. Man, that's fantastic. You probably come out with some really good job opportunities too, then. Uh, so, chatting with Sir Dies a lot, I didn't really talk too much about what I was doing here. So, just a quick recap. Um, ran through the array from right to left, incrementing every digit that was 9. And at the end, we've got the edge case of, wow, 100,000. Sorry, I keep answering the chat, but that's so interesting. 1,650 undergrads, and there are usually more for co-op jobs than students, or more jobs than students. That is bonkers. I graduated with four four computer science majors in undergrad, and my graduate program was much larger, but that was 5 6 years after I did undergrad. And I graduated from my undergrad maybe 10 years ago now. So I know there's just a desperate effort to try and ramp up the total number of people graduating from the software engineering and hard sciences degrees, just because there's a crazy amount of need, and not just need, but need for qualified good engineers, and just not enough people. Huh. Okay, part-time MBA. And that makes a lot of sense to me. I think a ton of schools are doing that kind of CAPS GS thing, and MBA is, for whatever reason, always been the go-to extra degree. So I've seen a lot of schools do that, where they kind of add in an MBA that you can use. 63%. Is that from the starting year, like from freshman year to the end? 63% actually make it through? 15, 20. So I'm I'm in the Midwest. So I didn't do the SAT. It wasn't as big of a deal here. I'm just curious what that is in what's the other one? Um, I'm having a brain fart, but I can't even remember what the other college entry. What's the other college entrance exam? ACT. Ah, thank you. The average ACT is 32. Okay, and what's the max ACT score? Isn't it like 36? Snap, that's crazy. Average GPA is 3.8. Okay, so you've got just a pile of top performers at that school, and a ton of people just cooking through it. It sounds like I had similar GPA. My ACT score was a little bit lower, but it sounds like the standard for entrance is pretty high there, which is great. Um, I'm curious if you don't mind sharing if they do much for soft skills. Uh, oh, valedictorians. Yeah, I would imagine with that being the average high school GPA, you're going to have just a ton of very, very high performers. In my freshman to senior year, graduation rate was quite a bit lower, just because it was a bunch of people who didn't really know what they were getting into. They hadn't really been exposed to STEM in high school, so they weren't really prepared for it. Um, but the acceptance rate is 70-ish. Okay. I think the acceptance for my undergrad was a little bit higher, but under 2,000 applicants. Huh. That's less than I would expect for, a STEM school, especially if you go on levels.fyi. This is just a fun one to show, because when you start clicking around in here, depending on what you want to go into, your salary for, I guess that's an L5, but even like an L3 is pretty significant if you can get into. Of course, this is a top tier tech company, so you would think it would suck that in. 1,200 men and 700 women. That's actually a better ratio than I've seen in a lot of programs, especially in my professional time. I have not seen that even of a ratio. It's usually more like 75, 90% men and very, very few women, which is, I think, is unfortunate because you lose a lot of perspective. Okay. Yeah, in the workplace, well, actually, I graduated. I only had four graduates in my undergrad, but they were all men. And then in the workplace, it's been a little bit more even, but it's probably 90%, at least in my experience, which is really unfortunate. You lose a lot of perspective when you have a more homogenous group. Okay, that's fantastic. They must be doing something right to try and make it more diverse and pull in different perspectives and different opinions. it's tough because you don't want to force someone to do something that they're not interested in, but you also want to communicate to people that comp sci is an equation of time and interest. So if it catches their interest and they're willing to put the time in, then they can absolutely be successful. Um, yep, yeah, that makes sense to me. That's kind of a low, an easy way to start evening out those numbers is just to say, hey, look, we'll make it this easier financially for you to get started. So it's a great step, I think. In my opinion, of course, you're just getting my perspective, but in my opinion, the other major thing is to have a culture that's inviting and that's very welcoming to people who aren't the standard stereotype for an engineer, just so they know you don't have to be obsessed with video games. You don't have to wear a Star Trek t-shirt, even though I do both of those things um, to get that. Yeah, absolutely. It's always fun when you find those thesis advisor is a woman. It's always fun when you find exceptions to the stereotype that you can really advertise and encourage and respect. Some of the best engineers that I've worked with, hands down, have been women, and I think it's just unfortunate the stereotype pushes them out of doing that as much. 44 publications and 2 patents. That is the definition of successful in comp sci or in any kind of research field is publications and patents. Yeah, in a short amount of time then too. Yeah, like I said, you can find brilliant people who are able to get into it and do it. And I think it's just important to really encourage and highlight those examples so people know it's not just one kind of person, it's not one stereotype, but this field is great for a lot of people. And if it catches their attention and catches somebody's attention and interest, then they can absolutely be successful in it. I just got some kind of a notification. I'm not sure what it was. Oh, okay, it was a follow. Hey, thanks for the follow, buddy. I appreciate that. All right. I've only got a few more minutes. Um, oh, mechanical engineering. We had something like that in my undergrad. Um, a few different engineering degrees, but it wasn't as big. I went to a relatively small school that wasn't just STEM. It also had a lot of healthcare and science um, and other stuff that they were doing too. So there were a couple engineering degrees, but mostly that. Yeah, EE was the bigger engineering degree. CS is third. Interesting. And I'm bummed to hear that because in CS we desperately need more engineers. And in my role, we're always trying to hire, we're always interviewing, and it's just very, very difficult to get people to come in. So I'm going to start hammering out a little bit of code here. I didn't really read this over too closely, but two binary strings, A and B, and return their sum as a binary string, which this one actually I think is going to wind up being CS was 7% 2 to 3 years ago. Okay, so that's growing. Yeah, the last time I talked to some people at my college, it had grown from like 4 students to maybe like 15 or 20 in CS, which is a large percent growth in 10 years, especially when higher ed is kind of struggling in general, but it's still slower than you'd like to see sometimes. Okay. 350. Oh, that's not bad. It sounds like your school, of course, now I can't remember the name of it, but uh, I'm scrolling. The Kettering. It sounds like Kettering University is a little bigger than the school that I went to. So yeah, the school that I went to had total student population of, I think, in the 3 or 4 thousand range. So it was just really not that big overall. And that was like all of the students at the school, including graduate school and undergrad and CAPS GS and all that. So it was just quite a bit smaller. How far are you away from graduating? I don't know if I asked you that, if you don't mind sharing. 22. Oh, okay. Interesting. So mine was actually pretty similar size, but your school must just be very focused on STEM, which is kind of what it sounded like. Ah, okay. Tacking one extra year on. That's not a bad idea at all. It's a good way to uh, just to get some extra credits in, possibly tack on another thing. Gotcha. Okay, so pretty specific. Yeah, I went to a liberal arts school that had two array, tons and tons of degrees. So I think that was good. It gave us a lot of variety, and then our gen eds could be really interesting. You could get a lot of, um, different things that you could try out and give it a shot. But at the same time, it definitely spread the faculty thin, where they had less time to focus on each individual thing. So a lot of professors had to teach multiple things. Huh. Okay. Hmm. Yeah, the school that I went to had quite a few degrees get sunset or retired, whatever you want to call it, in the last 2 to 3 years. Just wound up being tough. Okay. So I've only got a few minutes left in what I'm going to do for streaming tonight. So I'm probably not really going to start this one too much. Um, I might write out a little bit of the algorithm just to see what I can get, but with only a few minutes. I'm not sure I know what ABET is. ABET accreditation. Looking to see if Wiki, yeah, what does Wiki have to say about it? Accreditation Board for Engineering and Technology. Huh. Okay, so it's pretty well used, but it sounds like not so much for physics. Wonder if it'll tell me. Criteria, natural or physical sciences, mathematics. Interesting. Huh, that's a bummer. I'm sure the students who were in it or in the program would have liked to have that be a continuing option. So yeah, that's rough. So thanks for hanging out. Sir dies a lot. Hopefully you don't die much tonight. Um, I am going to call it good for the stream tonight. So appreciate anybody who jumped on, hanging out. Thank you, Sir Dies a lot, for the follow. Really appreciate it. And I am going to wrap it up. So I'll try and get back on a more regular schedule, but I'll be on and off throughout the week. Yeah, thanks, man. Doing it both to just stay sharp and also probably prep for a couple interviews that I might be doing in January just to see what else is out there with kind of the resignation patterns that I'm seeing. It might be worth looking around to see if there's something I could do that would be more interesting or get a higher salary. But yeah, it's also good just to stay sharp, and it's a lot of fun to hammer through a couple of problems. So hopefully I'll see you on the stream again. Have a great night. Bye.